we're not talking male and female. We're talking masculine and feminine.
Correct.
As soon as you said you had the same knots on both, I think it's feminine in nature to balance energy.
It really is.
So it made knots
to match.
To match.
But it wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, for sure.
I had no sensation of that.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I'm a touch with my feminine side. I heard that.
I appreciate it. So in this exploration, I actually learned that a lot of the bioelectrical energy that we receive naturally from like the earth, or like our grounding, the earthing that we do by walking in the sand or the grass and these types of things that are intended to help balance our energies, actually get caught up in those areas that we've been holding on to. And so that's where a lot of the pain could actually happen, is in your fascia, because it's very electrical. Its intention is to naturally balance, to naturally move through. And so when we are having pain, we're going to find that our fascia is knotted up. We might even have some scarring that then starts impacting our ligaments and our, all the other things that happen connected to our muscles. And it was very interesting for me, because I realized, oh wow, so the more that I let my masculine feel safe, the more that I affirm that things will get taken care of, the more that I allowed my masculine to relax, I started feeling discomfort on my feminine side. So more recently have been noticing some discomforts on my left side in a way that I had never before. And it's a very interesting thing, because just with a thought, we could actually move energy in our body. Like, we're that powerful. So
is it part in feminine nature to put others first too?
I think that mother, it's part of the mother archetype of the feminine, to be selfless, to put her needs aside for her children. But what happens for feminines, and I mean like women or people who are like very in their feminine energy, is they, maybe because they have their own wounds around mothering, that they overextend that to individuals who are not their children. Yeah. So then we're trying to mother other adults or other individuals that it's like not our role to do. So then we're taking on that burden, and then now we're burdened.
I heard, but I never found evidence of this. But this woman online was sharing how the heart isn't shaped like the heart that we draw out, but there's something under our heart that's shaped like a heart, and what that does is, when you have a child that's born of you, it on some level is monitoring to protect, because before you're just protecting your nervous system.
Sure.
Then when you have a child, you're protecting the child. So you have twins, you're protecting the two children and yourself, as far as there's an extension. And this, under your heart, there's something that's shaped like the let's call it the
heart symbol.
The heart symbol. But what's the cards that you would do? Hallmark. The Hallmark
version of the heart.
To protect that image.
Yeah.
And I really love that analogy. And I wish I knew if it was true or not, because I think it's true, even if it wasn't, if she didn't scientifically lay that out the way that it was. But it made me understand it. And I also think during COVID, and even before that with just social media, we're starting to pay attention to that. All throughout history, I wouldn't be worried about people that were dying all over the world. Up until that's a fairly, as far as evolutionary biology goes, that's pretty new.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
For the fact of, because we're actually seeing, because there's a disconnect when you're just like, you don't see an image, you don't see video, you don't see anything. There's a disconnect when 5 people died in there, but when all of a sudden you know somebody from that region, which social media has pushed in a lot of different things.
Now we have like a visual that can elicit emotions. Yeah, for
connecting, which sometimes in biology that takes years to be able to evolve into that, and we're adding stress and lots of elements of caring about people for all over the world.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious about your arm and your feeling with that. Like, you shared that you know that it's emotional.
Yeah.
Like, in your exploring, is there anything that you feel comfortable with sharing with people around like your process of like self-diagnosis in that way, or just like what your process is in kind of like moving through that?
So I heard something, and I was going to write on this, but I hadn't gotten the chance. Well, I forgot. No, it's not that I hadn't gotten the chance, I forgot. But that birds, when you see them singing up into the trees, that they only are singing when they're very nourished on many levels.
I love that.
So they have enough food, their family's taking care of everything. That's the only time that they, and that may be a human's interpretation of that. But I think there's more evidence that was taken care of. So it was harder for me to sing, and I'm talking about what that can mean to you and what it can mean to me on a level, not actually singing, but let's say getting my voice out there. We were talking before this about getting your voice out there. It seemed like a lot of thoughts that come in my head, I just don't let them get in the way a lot of times. But just being more in tune with the emotional balance of added stress, like we're all vulnerable to a level of that. And as I often say, I don't like to work with a net. Like, people are like, oh, do you have a video in your camera to have problems with video in your car, to have problems with passengers? I was like, I like working without a net. I want to resolve it. I don't want the camera to make me right or make it not. I want to meet this person halfway, and if they're a little angry, we're going to talk about the anger, and we're going to let them push through it, and I'm going to catch it before it gets to the point that they attack me or whatever the case is. And cars is like, well, you might get in an accident that you hit. I was like, okay, I want to avoid that. Like, I want to avoid. I want to be I don't want to say, oh, I got the camera, so I can. It's like an insurance policy.
But
no.
What an interesting thought process for someone to think that it's almost like you're bringing an accident into your world, because you're like pre-planning for something that hasn't even happened yet. Like, I could see if you've had many accidents and now this is like your process of dealing with that issue, but it's like we're manifesting that. With our thoughts.
It's like the time that you weren't at the cannabis wellness party that one time, and there's a round circle around the grass that we meet on, and nobody was asking. Well, sometimes they do, but nobody was asking about smoking weed there. But everybody's asking if they could park there, and it's a red zone, so you're not allowed to park there. But everybody kept on acting like that, and I was not as in tune as I would normally be in tune, and just say, hey, we're at a higher vibration. We're not going to attract that. It kept on coming up, and I was addressing and saying, if it does, then we'll just move the cars. That's as far as I was going. And then the one time we ended up attracting meter maids, or for other people in other countries, or people that write tickets for it being in a red zone. We attracted the people up there. Nobody from the cannabis wellness party, because I prepared them. Nobody got tickets, because we all moved by their time, but 10 tickets of people that were at the park because we manifested it. I took that as a positive and negative, because I knew that our group can manifest things.
Right. How powerful.
And why not put that energy towards world peace?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Are getting one step closer to world peace each time when we meet,
yeah,
opposed to just attracting the meter maids.
Yeah. This is bringing me back to like the start of our conversation. We were talking about like becoming your avatar self. So in childhood, we have our innate element. But if we don't begin the process of acknowledging that there are other elements as we grow and develop, and don't integrate them into our life and practice them if they're really hard, then we're just using one element, and that's very imbalanced. So we're going to experience an imbalanced life. So, like, for instance, like, all of the anxiety around, like, oh my gosh, are we going to get a ticket? That's like the mind manifesting that. And again, Everything has its dualities. It wasn't just negative, it wasn't just positive, it was both. But how much more powerful, as Steve said, would it be if we take the power of the thoughts and the mind and the air energy and we root it in like fire and the ability to like create change? Because what happens to a fire when we add air? Like the fire cannot exist without air. Same is true, fire cannot exist without earth. So just like to bring that into full scope, like to really be able to, like if you're innately a fiery person, because I'm a both fiery and airy person, so think about that. Woo! Tornadoes of fire that can happen in my younger life because I was unaware of the power that I held or hold. That if we just allow rootedness in all of the elements, we not only have more abundance, and I just mean that in the full sense, I don't mean that in one way, in the full sense of abundance within and outside of us, how powerful we are when we band together to create what we want in the world. If we want more peace, if we need more support, if we want to see more kindness, like whatever that is that we really want to see more in the world, how powerful can that be when we start really utilizing all of the elements in our life, which is then us tapping in to the most ancient knowledge in this universe, in the earth universe. Because the 4 elements, according to the Indigenous philosophy, are our elders. They're the ancient ones. They're the master teachers of the earth realm. And so when we tap into them and we use them with intention in our life, they're actually there to be our mentors and to teach us. And as we do this, we awaken the indigenous wisdom within us. And when I say that, I don't mean like, sometimes when I say this word, people get a little bit confused as to what I mean. Indigenous is native to land. If you're a human, you're native to earth. Like, even if you don't know what your heritage is and where they came from and all this stuff, because, humans have moved so many places on the earth at this point, we're all native to the planet Earth, unless you're not. It's okay.